Find the sum of the measures of the interior angles. Are there any questions on 1 through 4? On 1 through 4, we're just taking whatever the number is and plugging it into our formula. So for this here, it'd be 20 minus 2 times 180. And you'd plug this in. And if we plug this into the calculator, we would get what? 3,240. And that's it. And that's what we would do on all these here. We plug the number of sides in for n. And we would get our answer. So any other questions on 1 through 4? Decagon is? Well, how many sides is a decagon? 10. So this would be 10 minus 2 times 180. So this would be, as you're saying, 6,300? Yes. Oh, sorry, that's number 4. $1,440. So there might be some I'll use because for pentagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, decagon, some of our basic ones, I'll use the normal ones, but otherwise, if it's over that, so I'll use the number. Any other questions on 1 through 4? Find one interior angle in a regular polygon. So now we're using the other formula, n minus 2 times 180 divided by n. So if we did octagon, well, that'd be 8 minus 2 times 180 would give us the sum of the angles. And since all the angles are the same, and there's 8 of them, we divide it by the number of sides. And at this point here, we just need to type this into the calculator. And it would tell us that each of the interior angles would be 135 degrees. Now, will this give us a decimal answer? Well, yes. We can get decimal answers because number 7, if we do this here, so 27, well, 27 minus 2 times 180 divided by 27 will actually give us 166 and 2/3 degrees.
So if we put a decimal
0.66, at least go 2. Yeah, because this here's, I mean, this here is the same thing, isn't it? As long as it's the exact same form of the answer, I'm fine with it, no matter how it looks, as long as it is the same answer. Because, I mean, we could say 166.667, so it's still the same answer. Any other questions on 5 through 8 on how we do those? Are we good with 5 through 8? All right. What is the answer to number 9? What's the answer to all these? Does it matter how many sides it has? No, the sum of the exterior angles is always 360. Now, if we want to find one of the exterior angles, let's use 13. Well, I'm going to take 360 divided by what? The number of sides. And 360 divided by 21 is approximately 17.14 degrees. And that's it. We take the sum, which is 360, and divide it by the number of sides. Because it works out that the number of sides and the number of angles are the same. It works out that those will always match up. So any other questions on this here? Are we good with this here? Yes? Okay. Keep moving. Classify the polygon based off the sum of the interior angles. So these here, any one of these in particular you want to look at? I'll take 18 then. So if we look at number 18, well, I know that the sum of the interior angles is n minus 2 times what? 180. And it told us that the sum is 21,420. So the sum of the interior angles is this. So we can use this formula, n minus 2 times 180, gives us the sum of the interior angles, which we've told is 21,420. Now to find how many sides it would have, well, the first thing I would do is I would divide both sides by 180, which would give us n minus 2. I'm going to work a little bit backwards. Okay. And if we divide this, we should get 119. Would you all agree with that there? And then what would we do lastly? We would add 2 to both sides, which will tell us that n is equal to 121. So how many sides does it have? 121. We can call it 121. Gone. In gone. Number of sides. Gone. So the number of sides that this would have would be 121. Questions on this here? So really for this here, what we're doing is we're just taking whatever the sum, so we could do it with 15,300, and we would plug it in here. And well, the first thing I would do is I would divide it by 180, and then what? Add 2. So if we did it with the other one, $15,300, well, we would divide it by 180. And if I divide it by 180, I would get that n minus 2 is equal to 57, not 57, 85. Then we would add 2, which will tell us n is equal to 87. So we divide the sum by 180 and then add 2 to it to figure out how many sides it has. Any other questions on this here? Are we good with these here? Okay. Any questions on 20 through 24? Any one of those 4 that we want to look at, 5 that we want to look at? 24. 24. So we want to find the value of x. So the first thing would be helpful is figuring out what is the sum of all these angles supposed to be equal to. Now, if I look at this here, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 angles. So that means we also have 8 sides. So we do 8 minus 2 times 180. Well, 8 minus 2 is 6. And 6 times 180 is going to be 1080. So the sum of all these angles is going to be 1,080 degrees. So the sum of all these angles is 1,080 degrees. Because that's really where we need to start. We need to figure out what is going to be the sum of all these angles. And now that we have that, I'm going to erase this because I need space. Sum is 1080. We can add all of these up. So I could start off with, say, x plus 143, plus 2x, plus 152, plus 116, plus 125, plus 140, plus 139. And again, I still ran out of space. And all this here is still equal to 1080 because that's the sum of the interior angles. Well, we can combine like terms. X plus 2x is 3x. Now we need to combine all these other numbers. What would we get if we add all those together? 143 plus 152 plus 116 plus 125 plus 140 plus 139 is 815. Any questions on anything we've done so far? We good with this here? Okay, well now we need to solve for the value of x. So I'm going to subtract 815 from both sides. 815 and 815 will cancel, giving me 3x. If we subtract it from here, 7, 10, so 5, 6, and 2. 265. And last but not least, we would divide both sides by 3. And 3 goes into this, 8 is 24, 25 would be 8, and then I think 0.3 repeating, so 1/3, 88 and 1/3. Yes. Which one are we on? 24. Yep. Yeah. I disagree with that sheet. Yeah. 88 and 1/3. Yeah. 139, 140, 125, 116, 152, 2x, 143x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. I agree with that. 88 and 1/3 makes more sense. So that's the correct answer. Because I think that's what, do we all agree with 88 and 1/3? This is wrong. Because I think the back of it says 125 for 24. Yeah, so that's not right. I'll have to fix that later. So any other questions on 20 through 24? 23. So this here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sided figure. I have an X. Yep. So these are going to be our missing angles. Because otherwise there wouldn't be anything to solve. Now because it has 6 sides, we can say 6 minus 2 times 180, which would be 4 times 180, which gives us 720. So it means all these angles add up to be 720. Well, we can say 130 plus 170 plus 140 plus 3x. We could write out x plus x 3 times, but it'd be the same as 3x. So any questions on this here? Now we can add these together. Well, 130 plus 170 is 300. Plus 140 is going to be 440. This? is we need to find out what is the total sum of all the angles. Well, the total sum is 720. That's where we got set this equal to. Now, if we subtract 440 from both sides, we'll get 3x by itself, and 3x is going to equal 0, because it'd be 8 will give us 520 and 2. And lastly, we can divide both sides by 3. 28 divided by 3 would be 9, which gives us 10, which would be 3. 93 and 1/3, or 93.3 repeating. Yes? Any other questions on 20 through 24? We good with those there? Okay, if we're good up to 24. Questions on 25 through 28. 25 through 28. Any one of those in particular you want to look at? $25. So we want to find the measure of angle x. So we also have one here. Well, I know that the sum of all these exterior angles is what? 360, yes? So this one here is, so we have 90, I have 64, I have x, I have 2x minus 1. What's my last angle here? Well, do we know what this angle is? No, but these two angles make a straight line. So we could say 180 minus 135, which would be 45 degrees. So this angle here is 45. So we had to find one angle. So we had to find one angle for this one here. But now that we found it, we can combine like terms. So x plus 2x is 3x. Well, we can combine these however we want. 64 and 45 would give us 109, plus 90 would be 199, yes? Well, what else do we have? Minus 1, which gives us 198. So it's 90 plus 64 plus 45 minus 1 should give us 198. Now at this point here, we would subtract 198 from both sides, because these would cancel. Minus the 3x is equal to 162. And last but not least, we would divide by 3, telling us x is equal to 54 degrees. Any other questions on this here? Are we good with this one here? We can look at this one here. This one here is not as bad as the other one because, again, the sum of the exterior angles is 360. So we can say 3x plus 2x plus 80 plus 78 is 360. Sum of the exterior angles is 360. Well, now that we have this set up, we can combine like terms. So 3x plus 2x plus x is 80 plus 78 is 158. Well, we need to get x by itself, so I can subtract 158 from both sides, which will tell me that 6x is equal to 202. I don't know why without 102. So this would be 5, 10, 2. 5 minus 5 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. And lastly, we would divide both sides by 6. 6 goes into 23 times, which gives us 18. So minus 2, 22 would be, well, 3, 18. And 2/3, I believe, 3, or 33.6 repeating for this one here. Yep, 28, 33.6 repeating. Any other questions on these here? Are we good with these here? Yes? Okay. Name the polygon in the most specific way. What would 29 be? Quadrilateral, for it to be a trapezoid, we need to know it has at least one set of parallel lines. We need to know that it has one set of opposite, or one parallel lines. How about 30? So it is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. It is a parallelogram because we have 2 sets of parallel sides. And we have 4 right angles, so this would be a rectangle. Because we can't call it a square because all 4 sides are not congruent. How about 31? Two sets of consecutive congruent sides, so it would be a kite. 32 is a square. 33? It would be parallelogram, because if the opposite angles inside of a quadrilateral are congruent, then it is a parallelogram. And that's about as much as we can say because we don't have anything else. How about 35? What would this be? It is a trapezoid, but it's not just a trapezoid. It's what? It's isosceles. Why is it isosceles? Yes, because we have one pair of congruent sides. 36 would just be a trapezoid because we just have one set of parallel sides. The set of congruent legs makes it isosceles. And 34 is a rhombus because all 4 sides are congruent, and the last 2 are quadrilaterals. Any other questions on 29 through 38? Okay. We're skipping to 43. I don't think I included 39 through 42 on the test, so I took it out. 43 through 48. Any one of those in particular you want to look at? Any one of those in particular you guys want to look at? 44. So looking at this here, what do we know? Since it's a parallelogram, and we were talking about the angles, the angles are what? The opposite angles are going to be congruent to each other. So that means I'm going to have 2 statements. I'm going to have that 5x minus 30 is going to equal what? 3x plus 20. That's going to be one of the statements. I'm going to move it over there. The other statement is that 3y minus 11 is equal to 2x plus 35. Well, the one in red, I have it in terms of x and y, yes? I can't solve for two variables at once. But the other one is 5x minus 30 is equal to 3x plus 20. Okay, we can solve this for the value of x. And once we find the value of x, then we can plug it back in and solve for the value of y. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get x on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And when I subtract 3x from both sides, these will cancel. 5x minus 3x is minus 30 is equal to 20. Then we can add 30 to both sides, because again, we're trying to get x by itself. And that'll tell us 2x is equal to 50. And last but not least, we're going to divide both sides by 2, telling us x is equal to 25. Any questions on how we found the value of x? Okay, now we'll plug it back in to find the value of y. So 3y minus 11 is equal to 2 times 25 plus 35. Well, 2 times 25 is 50. Well, 50 plus 35 is 85. Any questions on this here so far? Okay. At this point here, we can add 11 to both sides, as these will cancel, telling us 3y is equal to 96. And last but not least, we can divide both sides by 3, telling us y is equal to 32. So we had to find the value of x first, and once we found the value of x, we could plug it into the other equation to find the value of y. Any other questions on 43 through 48? Any questions on 43 through 48? Any one of those in particular you all want to look at? A lot of those there, it's just matching up what's congruent. Matching up what is going to be congruent for each parallelogram. Are we good to move on to the next set? Yes. Questions on 49 through 56. Solve for the variables in the special parallelograms. Huh? 49. So we need to find the value of x, the value of y, and the value of z. Which one do we know for sure? Z is going to be 80. Well, since it's a parallelogram, the consecutive angles are what? They equal 180. They're supplementary. So x plus 80 is equal to 180. Well, to get x by itself, I would minus 80 from both sides and see that x is equal to 100. So what does that mean about the value of y? It's 100 because the opposite angles are Any other questions on 49 or 50 before we move on to the next one? Well, 50 is kind of like the one we did, the last one we did with the angles, except it's talking about sides. The opposite sides are going to be congruent. We'll set them equal to each other. And here, again, we would solve for the value of x and then find the value of y. Questions on 51 through 56, or 51 and 52. 56. Let's look at 56. 56. Find the length of HI, or HJ and KI, and the measure of KLM. KLH. Well, KLH is going to be 90 degrees. Is going to be 90 degrees because the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. Because this is coming from the properties of a rhombus. The rhombus's diagonals are perpendicular to each other. Now, if I want to find the length of HJ and KI, well, we know that they're going to be congruent. They're going to be the exact same length. And they told us HJ is 4x minus 2, and KI is x plus 8. So if I want to find the length, I first need to find the value of x, and once I find the value of x, I just plug it back in. So we set them equal to each other and solve for the value of x. Well, I'm going to subtract x from both sides because I want to get x on the same side of the equation. 4x minus x would give us 3x minus 2 is equal to 8. And once we do this, we can add 2 to both sides. And when we add 2 to both sides, we'll get 3x is equal to 10. And last but not least, we would divide by 3, and that tell us that x is equal to 3 1/3. Any questions on how we found the value of x? Okay, now we can plug it back in. I'm just going to pick KI, because KI is x plus 8. So if I plug it back in, well, 3 1/3 plus 8 will tell me that it's, well, 11 1/3. That means HJ is also going to be 11 1/3 because these two lengths are the same. Yes, sir. Here, it's just plus 2. Yeah, we're just adding 2 to both sides. Any other questions on 56? Any other questions on 51 through 56? Bless you. So 55 would be almost the exact same as this one here. We set those two lengths equal to each other, solve for the value of y, and plug it back in. So are we good with 51 through 56? Are we good with finding those angles and side lengths? Yes. Okay. Any questions on 57 through 64? In a trapezoid, the angles that are next to each other, so 60 and x, the angles between the parallel sides add up to be what? 180. So if I want to find the value of x, well, x plus 60 is 180. I can subtract 60 from both sides, and I see that x is 120. Well, we can do the same thing for y, because here it would be y plus 90 is equal to 180, and if I subtract 90 from both sides, we see that y is equal to 90. Any questions on 57? On 58, x and 61 add together to be 180. So if I want to do a shorthand, well, we can do 180 minus 61, which will tell us that x is 119. What's the value of y going to be? And z is going to be 61. As it works out in an isosceles trapezoid, the base angles are congruent. The angles between the parallel lines are still supplementary. They add up to be 180. But it works out that the base angles are going to be congruent. Questions on these here? Are we good with these here? Good with these trapezoids?
We do 61.
Yes. So we'll look at a kite. Now we're asked to find a good number of angles. We're asked to find 6 angles. But I know angle 1 is going to be what? Because inside of a kite, the 2 diagonals where they cross are going to be right angles. They are perpendicular. These are going to be 90 degrees. Well, we can go after angle 2 next, because these 3 angles, angle 2, which I'll call x, plus 90 plus 20, all equal what? 180. They add together to be 180 degrees. It makes a triangle, yes? Well, 90 plus 20 is 110. At this point here, we can subtract 110 from both sides. And we get x is equal to 70. Angle 2 is 70 degrees. Well, do we know any other angles from that? 3. Because again, we said the angles between the non-congruent sides are congruent. So the angles between the non-congruent sides are going to be congruent. So those would both be 70. So that leaves us with 3 and 4, these 2 here, yes? Well, once I find the value of one of them, I have the value of the other. Well, up in this top spot, well, I have 40 plus 90 plus angle 4, and that should equal 180, yes? Well, 40 plus 90 is 130. And to get x by itself, I would subtract 130 from both sides, telling me x is equal to 50. So angle 4 and 5 would both be 50 degrees. Any other questions on 61? Any other questions on these kites? Are we good with these kites? Yes? Any questions on 63 or 64? Are we good with 63 and 64? And again, so the angles between the non-congruent sides would be congruent. They're going to be the same. '65 through 68. So if we look at 65, well, x, the mid-segment, is equal to 1/2 the sum of the 2 bases. So since the bases are 12 and 4, well, it would be equal to 1/2 of 12 plus 4. 12 plus 4 is 16, so 1/2 of 16 is 8. The mid-segment formula. Mid-segment's equal to 1/2 the sum of the bases. Questions on 65 or 66? We good with 65 and 66? Yes? Draw a line. Okay, well, 67 and 68 are a little bit different. We'll look at 67. Because it told us the mid-segment is 11.3, yes? Well, it's equal to 1/2 of the sum of the bases, which would be x plus 4.2. Now, this one here is not as nice. We could do to add these two together, well, I can't really combine x and 4.2 because they're not like terms, and multiplying by 1/2 would not be convenient. I can multiply both sides by 2 because 2 times 1/2 would be 1, which will just leave us with x plus 4.2. 2 times 11.3 is going to be 22.6. So last but not least, what do we need to do? I need to subtract 4.2 from both sides. Those cancel. And it tells me x is equal to 18.4. On these here, if the numbers don't look right, you can plug them back in. Because if I wanted to check this here, well, I could do 18.4 plus 4.2 and multiply that by 1/2. I could type that into the calculator and see, do I get 11.3? If I do, I got the right answer. If I don't, I need to look back at the math. Does that make sense? So if for some reason you feel like, especially on these here, the number doesn't look right, plug it back into the formula, see if it comes out to be the correct answer. We can always check it. Questions on these here? Now, something like 69, this here, this isn't any different than what we're talking about or doing here. It would just be that we have 22 is equal to 1/2 of 2x plus 4 plus 4x plus 10. We would use the same formula and the same setup to solve this here. We can combine like terms. 2x plus 4x is 6x. 4 plus 10 is 14. Now I can do the same thing. I can multiply both sides by 2 because those will cancel. And 22 times 2 would give us 44. Minus 14 from both sides, those will cancel, leaving us with 6x is equal to 30. Divide both sides by 6, which will tell us x is equal to 5. Does that make sense there? Yes. So even if we had 3 variables in all 3 spots, like 71 and 72, the process doesn't change. So we'll set them up, multiply by 2, and solve.